It's great to hear that again, right, Dan?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. MAAC is on the map, and we're back on the map. The relay throws back after 2 months. 1 year anniversary. Can you believe that?
1 year?
It's been 1 year.
Is it 1 year?
Well, a
happy
year
birthday
and a few weeks, but
happy birthday to us. We missed it, but for reasons we're not gonna dive too much into. Center field's been busy. We've been busy on our butts, but we're back, and we gotta talk some hoops. We gotta talk the MAAC. We gotta talk center field. We're gonna talk Marist. We got so much to talk about, and I'm really excited we got the chance to talk this Sunday.
Yeah, we're recording this on Sunday, March 5th. Last time we recorded an episode, last time we posted an episode was December 23rd. We recorded that a few days prior. Mm-hmm. So it's been over 2 months, Dan. A long 2 months without Marist sports. Since then, we've gone through the rest of each basketball season. We're on to tournament season. It's Destination AC, boys.
Yep.
We're ready to rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Boys and girls, we got the Marist men's and women's basketball teams ranked on the lower half of the MAAC standings.
Where we thought we'd be.
Where we thought. That's true. But poised to make a run, maybe. That's the dream of March. Isn't that right, Dan?
Dreams, they can become nightmares very quick. I think it was an appropriate break for these last 2 months because all we really got going on is basketball, right? So it's kind of a lull area. Like I was editing the men's beat, so I've been following the team a little more closely than the women's beat until I actually commentated that women's game, which the audio should be coming out soon. I no Mike Breen double bangs, but didn't get the opportunity because the second half was a lull at Brian George's retirement ceremony game, I would say. But it's a celebration of Georges. But now we have the men's team locked into the last seed, which we won't get into, but they are. Look, if they won yesterday against Quinnipiac, they would have had to play Quinnipiac in the first round because Quinnipiac would have jumped all the way down to the 6th seed and Marist would have stayed in the 11th seed. So because there's only one game of separation between Marist, Niagara, Quinnipiac, I think it was Siena, all those like 2nd to 5th separated by one game, but a loss means they get to play Manhattan, and Manhattan they beat a week and a half ago by 30. So talk about false hopes, mirages, like what is happening? We have a chance to win in the first round, which I hate to say, but we do. I'm not going to say we. Marist does. I'm not affiliated with this college.
Hey, I mean, you're a fan. You're a fan.
I'm a fan as much as a writer, but yesterday I was a writer, and Marist did themselves a favor. Even though they tried full effort, they did themselves a favor.
Well, here's the problem, though. If they beat Manhattan, they have to play Quinnipiac in the second round anyways. So I don't know if it really helped them that much. I mean,
that's a good point.
Marist, I believe, swept Manhattan this season. So, I mean, they do have that track record now. It's always hard to the cliche. It's always hard to sweep a team regular season and playoffs.
Yeah. I think they lost the first game against Manhattan. They actually John
who was it they swept?
At the presser, John Dunn quote. This is a quote. They blitzed us at our house and we blitzed them at theirs. So these are teams that have beat each other.
My apologies. Yep.
Yeah.
No. They lost 69-80 in December.
Understandable. They've played a weird schedule. Just how they've played their schedule has been weird. I'll say that. But, Dunn seems yesterday at the presser, seems confident about playing Manhattan. He just said the biggest part is that the intensity they have to be, so that he said they were more intense the first game that they won versus when they played Manhattan. He said they weren't as intense as when Manhattan beat them, which is interesting because if you get beat at home and this is the team you have to play first round and it's the last place team, that's a lot of fuel in the tank for Manhattan. And despite losing a few of their best players this year, according to Kristen DeBlock of the men's basketball beat. So this is going to be an interesting game.
And not just an interesting game, it's going to be an interesting MAAC tournament, Dan. I mean, Iona, heavy favorites right now. Let's just go right into it. Let's talk men's basketball.
Yeah, I like the banner.
Dude, I was so happy when I found the betting odds. I was disappointed they didn't have the betting odds for the women. Very disappointed.
And that is disappointing because I'm for Marist's sake, honestly, considering how they played Iona, I'm really excited for the women's team to see their first round matchup. They're very, I would say, whereas the men team goes on like streaks, they're very streaky. The women's team is very 50-50 game per game. They could beat Iona by 20 and they could lose the next game by 15 to I think Canisius. Didn't they play Riders the last year? Canisius, yeah. So
yeah, it's we'll get into more of the women a little later in the show, but right now let's talk men. Iona's the heavy favorites. They are the betting favorites as per DraftKings Sportsbook at -200 to win the MAAC and move on to the NCAA tournament. Dan, what do you think of Iona's chances this tournament? Do you think they'll get upset once again?
Interesting. I think there's one big factor that we're not seeing, and that is St. Peter's. Who was the Cinderella last year? Who was the 2 seed last year? It was St. Peter's, and after everyone transferred, they're nowhere to be found. And obviously there's still a lot of strong teams, 2 to 5, even 2 to 6, but really, Iona's on an 11-game win streak. They just held off Ryder by 2 their last game, and they have scores. I mean, they have a lot of scores. I'm really worried about Iona, and I'd like to know a little bit more about their roster this year versus last year, because they were supposed to be the win last year as well. I mean, they're supposed to win every year under Patino. So I really want to get a good analysis of their roster before we pin them as the favorites to win. But right now, they are unstoppable.
Here's the thing of Iona. They've got size. That's the thing they have over the rest of the MAAC, is that they're not losing transfers as much as they're gaining transfers from other schools.
Okay.
Players who are undervalued by other schools. And in that regard, they're getting size. So, like, Marist right now, Patrick Gardner, Stefan Ingo. That's it.
Yeah.
Gardner, of course, has been the second leading scorer in the MAAC this year. He's been incredible, but unfortunately, not too much other than that surrounding Marist. Iona has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players 6'7" or taller.
No, that is not going to hold well. And
that is the key to winning the MAAC, my friends.
And I want to bring up one guy on this team, Nelly Joseph Jr.
Oh, Nelly Jr. Joseph.
Oh, Jr. Joseph. So that flips me up every time. But this guy is averaging 15 and 10 in college. In the MAAC, if you're averaging 15 and 10, while you have 2 other scorers that are averaging above 15, I mean, this is unbelievable. And those are the 2 guards of the team, I'm pretty sure. I know Denise Jenkins, and Walter Clayton. They have 2 guards scoring over 15. You know what that tells me? That tells me they have great pick and roll. And you know who also had great pick and roll? Quinnipiac. And against Marist, if you got a guy who's outsizing you, if they can rotate their guards to open looks, like you're not going to stand a chance against these top teams. Simply outmatched physically. So,
yeah, and Nelly Jr. Joseph, he's from Nigeria. He's had this incredible story. I believe he came up with the NBA Academy in Africa that they set up. But 15 and 10. He had 27 against Marist in their last meeting this past Thursday, I believe. So he's been a game wrecker this whole year. Iona, I think by far has the best depth in the MAAC at all positions. They've got the size, and so when you got depth and size, those are the two biggest factors, I think, and not just this year, any year for winning the MAAC. And Iona's got them both nailed. So I think I agree with the betting odds. I think they're a heavy favorite to win this at -200. Do I like, some of the other mid-tier, second-tier MAAC teams? Yes, I, for one, am a fan of Siena, and I think they're a good value at +1,000. But besides the fact, Iona, I think, is the clear favorite.
Yeah. I mean, look, so they have this bye. If Marist somehow gets by Manhattan, not somehow, if they get by, I'm going to give them respectable odds to beat Manhattan. If they get by, look at what they did 3 days ago against Marist. 93-74. Nelly Jr. Joseph had 27 and 11. Walter Clayton had 18, 9 assists, 4 rebounds. And Denise Jenkins had 21 and 10 assists. This is such a dynamic offense. And you're right, the size is a huge factor. Size will win you the MAAC. That is for sure. And that's something that Marist has definitely lacked, depth of size, because, they aren't able to bully other forwards into getting out of the paint. And they can't block shots without fouling. And that's what I saw yesterday, which is why I think Quinnipiac is well deserving of the second spot, despite being third in the standings. Just going down their roster, Paulo Tieno, the really big body forward, not even that tall, but I think it's probably 6'7". But I mean, just whenever bulk. And whenever Ingo or Gardner got in the paint, I really didn't feel confident, because Otieno would just box him out so well. And talk about the two pick and roll guards, you got Matt Belanc and Desi Jones. They shot in the first half. They had I want to say a 68 3-point percentage, and they took at the end of this game, they took 27 threes, and I think they had a 50% 3-point percentage. Unbelievable. They were taking pull-ups. They were taking shots off the pick and roll. They were taking corners. It was insane. Their rotation was unbelievable. Talking to Dunn after the game, really was talking about how well they match up guard, how well they get their forwards on different angles, which confuse the Marist offense or defense on those pick and rolls. So Quinnipiac is for sure deserving of the second spot. So these top 5 teams, though, this is going to be a great tournament. I'm really excited.
And by the way, I forgot to mention, this might be the most important out of all of them with Iona, just going back real quick, and then I'll touch on Quinnipiac. Iona has by far and away the best coach in the MAAC, too.
For sure.
Rick Pitino. So those are 3 major keys where they're clearly the best in the MAAC. So I think that just bolsters their case. With Quinnipiac, they're interesting to me because they're the complete opposite of Marist. They've got continuity, and all the rotation guys are juniors or older, pretty much. And so they're experienced. They've all played together for multiple years. And so because of that, I think they have a good chance as well, and they're well deserving of the second best odds in the MAAC. According to DraftKings Sportsbook, we're not sponsored.
Definitely
but
not.
I think I wish we were sponsored, but Quinnipiac, yeah, I definitely see why DraftKings puts him there. If we're just going down the MAAC, I'm going to be honest. I have not seen much of Ryder this year.
No, me neither.
So I know they're the second seed in the MAAC. I know they're third. They've got the third best odds here.
I did, however, want to touch on Siena. Very interesting season.
Yes. Very
interesting MAAC season.
My pick.
If you look at their recent games, they recently, their last game, they lost 73-72 to St. Peter's in OT. Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Yep.
And before that, they lost against Manhattan, Iona, and Ryder, and Quinnipiac. They are in a tough spot. The last team they beat was Marist.
Yep.
So I want to hear why you think they have a good shot.
So I should clarify. I think Iona is going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Siena's just my X factor. They're the dog I'd take if I'm betting, and I think it's because I think we've talked about Nelly Jr. Joseph. We talked Patrick Gardner. I think Javian McCollum is the best guard in the MAAC.
Yep.
And when you have a top lead guard, I think it will come easier for them in a tournament setting where you need to be composed. Siena has also had a quality resume. They beat Florida State back at Disney World during the non-conference stretch feast week. And so they have the quality of wins. I think they have the best lead guard in the MAAC. And I think that combo, I love their value at plus 1,000. I think that's a recipe for success. And they have a solid mix of like younger talent, like freshmen and sophomores, playing with like seniors and grad students. So They've got a nice mix of that veteran leadership to go along with that. And they're all young, but I'll go ahead and say youthful energy. Young cats who haven't played in the MAAC tournament setting yet, which might be to their detriment, but it could also be to their benefit because, they could attack it from a newfound confidence, like they never played in this before. To prove the world that we belong. So I like Siena for that reason. And I think plus 1,000 is amazing value. And it's definitely because of the recent stretch, as you alluded to.
Bounce back.
I see this. It's a whole new season. It's a whole new season. And this has been the podcast of cliches so far.
This has been. We can't show this to Leander. Anything can happen to
Leander.
Yeah.
Leander would be so anti episode 10 right now, but
he doesn't get it.
But Siena, it's a whole new season for them. MAAC tournament time. They still got a high seed. I like their chances against Niagara, and they get the start later in the week. They start on Thursday. They got some time off.
That is important.
Once again, who knows? Maybe that's to their detriment. But if that time off, maybe they'll, recalibrate.
Something important to notice about McCollum, though he isn't really a 3-point shooter, he does take
he's a slasher.
He takes a lot of shots, but he has very good free throw percentage. He's second in the MAAC. He has an 84 percentage behind Walter Clayton Jr. By the way, is 84 for 89 on free throws, which is unbelievable. But McCollum has some of the highest attempts in the league. He gets fouled a lot. He's efficient, and he's one of the top scorers in the MAAC, like you mentioned. One of the top guards. You see most of these top scorers are forwards. We got, Garner, Clayton, Dwight Murray Jr. is up there. Noah Thomason. But McCollum is really interesting. I'd really like to see what Siena can do. And speaking of which, Noah Thomason for Niagara.
Oh, man.
19.7 points this year. He is a monster. I forget where Niagara sits now. I think they sit in the
fifth. Yeah. So Siena would play them in the first round.
That's going to be
the best opening round game.
That is definitely my first round of the tournament. Again, both these teams are coming off a loss. Canisius actually dogged them 81-68, as Danny Dessler would say. So I'm really liking this. I'm really liking how the MAAC looks right now. And like we said, look, this is a cliche, but it's the most true cliche I've ever spoken into existence. Anything can happen in the MAAC. Look at last year. When I said Marist did themselves a favor by not playing Quinnipiac in the first round, they did themselves a favor. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen. And I'll say it outright.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
Now, honestly, this team, needless to say, has hit some rock bottoms this year, but Dunn is still sounding positive, and I feel confident in Manhattan. I mean, Marist to beat Manhattan. But like I said, anything can happen in the MAAC. This is going to be a good tournament.
Manhattan's a winnable game. For me, it's just when they play Quinnipiac. That's, I think, when the tournament starts for Marist, if they make it that far. That's going to be their biggest test of the season to this point. But
look, just if they do get there, I'm sorry to cut you off, but if they do get there, I don't see them getting past, unfortunately.
No.
Actually, something interesting I did want to bring up. At the end of the game, there's bad blood between these two teams. There is. And so at the end of the game yesterday, Niagara's up 12 or 14. And they get a steal on a fast break, 20 seconds left. You just got to dribble the ball out of the shot clock. That's the written rule, or unwritten rule. Rather, and Matt Blanc hits a 360 reverse dunk, one-handed, and the whole Quinnipiac bench is riled up. I don't think any of the McCann fans really cared because they were already leaving after a dagger from Desi Jones, but Noah Harris had some words for Matt Blanc. It looked like, just overall, the bench was it looked a little unnerved. I mean, obviously that's going to happen. I'm sure, just trying to be like, hey man, like isn't that necessary?
Right.
But
just the sportsmanship.
Unfortunately put kind of a glum feeling in the arena on senior night. But that's all I'll say about that situation. I'll say that if these two teams play each other, it's got to be a lot of energy, more energy than this Marist Manhattan game for sure.
I mean, you gotta hope they have energy. Add that to the fact that it's the MAAC tournament, and it's win or go home. So, yeah, and also I had one more point on Javion McCollum, real quick. He reminds me of a lighter Jawatuka. That's been my comparison for Javion McCollum. The way they play is very similar. Not the best 3-point shooters, but good slashers that they can carry at lead guard. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there real quick. But looking ahead, I like the chances from the bottom half of the seeds. Or not the seeds, I'm sorry, the bracket. So like I love Quinnipiac's chances this tournament too. I know I picked Iona and my dark horse is Siena, but I think Quinnipiac, whoever they play, Manhattan or Marist, to be a heavy favorite. Like I said, I haven't seen much of Ryder, so I won't make a prediction on that game. I mean, Ryder's a second seed. They're obviously very talented.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have to see what happens there. But I mean, they get past that. I mean, they're in the final. So I like Quinnipiac's chances in the bottom half of the bracket for sure.
Yeah.
For me, the most interesting game of the tournament comes in the semifinals, the top half of the bracket. I think that's going to be Iona's first true test this tournament.
Yeah.
It's going to be either Niagara or Siena, who are two tough matchups for Iona, I think. You get the leading scorer in the MAAC, or you get one of the best lead guards in the MAAC. And so that's going to be tough for Iona, I think. Now, Iona's proven all year they can beat and man down anyone. So I would still pick Iona in that situation. However, that's going to be, I think, the game that puts up the most fireworks in the tournament.
Okay.
Which that semifinal, if Iona advances to the semis and the winner of Siena Niagara, that's going to be the game of the tournament.
Okay. I like that, but I got something a little earlier for you.
Okay.
Looking at this bracket, this is what I see. I see this Fairfield-St. Peter's matchup, not really mattering too much. I think Fairfield should get the win. Plays Ryder. Again, can't speak on Ryder much. I'd like to hear more about what they've done this year before I make any predictions about them. I know they have Dwight Murray Jr., who's been around the MAAC for quite a bit. And they also have Mervyn James, who averages 12.9. So can't really speak on them much. I think they should, again, win. I say Quinnipiac should beat whoever they play easily. And, I would favor Quinnipiac against Ryder. However, I'm looking at this Mount St. Mary's Canisius game. Okay. Canisius just beat Niagara 81-68.
Yeah.
When Noah Thompson scored 35 and they still beat them by that much.
Yep.
I see Canisius as my upset favorite to beat Iona.
Wow.
And shake up this tournament. I know. And believe me, that is wild. But Iona, while they are great, and size-wise, they are great, I think Canisius has the tools to beat them. Niagara does have size, and they were able to beat them on those fronts. And just looking at their top scorer, Jordan Henderson, and he's a 6'5" guard. He's strong. He's a strong kind of halfway small power forward type. Yeah. They have 6'10" Jackal Fritz. They have 6'6". I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but they have some Dutch ties. Interesting. What these teams have with Marist with some old
Dutchmen.
The Dunking Dutchman. They have a lot of tall guards, 6'7" and above. Frank Mitchell, a guard from Ukraine. That's a graduate student. Looking at this roster and seeing that their top scorer is Jordan Henderson, a 6'5" guard, I really like Canisius' chances coming off of a hot win against a tough scorer in Niagara. So that's my game to watch. If Canisius can get past Mount St. Mary's, the Mount, like this, that is my take.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I know it's hot, but I love it. I love that you're going there right, nice, bright and early for the upset. But to be honest, isn't that what happened last year? Right?
Yeah. And look at this. And look at this. Their past few games on Alumni Day, they beat Fairfield 64-51. Before that Friday, February 24th, they beat St. Peter's pretty easily, 66-53. They lost to Mount St. Mary's by 1. So they have that fuel to want to beat them. Yeah. And then before that, they beat Ryder and Quinnipiac. This is a team that could shake up the top. They are beating top teams and top scorers in the MAAC. They had a really slow start. They heat it up at the right time. They have size. I'd like to learn more about their strength and what lineups they put out. I'm gonna watch some. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna watch some Canisius basketball after this. I think the Golden Griffiths have a chance to shake up this tournament.
That was one of the greatest elevator pitches of all time, Dan Aulbach. I mean, so this would mark if your prediction holds, or at least your fan fiction holds. This would be the second straight year that Iona loses to a 9 seed. After losing
Beware
last year
of the 9th seed.
Wow,
in this tournament.
You've got me hooked. You've got me hooked. Too bad I can't bet on that game, but you've got me hooked. Now that's assuming they get through Mount St. Mary's first, of course.
And again, is have they beat Iona this year? Let's find out. First game they lost by 30, so no. And second game they lost by 20. So hey, they're trending upward.
They're gonna at worst they're gonna lose by 10.
But they dogged again the next game. They dogged, as Danny Dessler would say, they dogged Quinnipiac by 20. Yeah. This is a very, I mean, look, I think they can match well up against size if that's Iona's main threat. Let me look at some of their season statistics, and then we can obviously probably move on to the women's team.
Yeah,
but some individual stats for you.
You pull up the stats before we move on to the women. Though we need to know your favorite and your dark horse for this tournament.
Okay, look here. Jaco Fritz, 6'10" guard. This guy is a bona fide scorer in the paint. He has a .579 field goal percentage. He doesn't take threes. He knows his role. He gets in the paint. He has, averaging 6 rebounds. This team doesn't rebound that much. They, averaging pretty low rebounding numbers, but it looks like they get inside the paint really well. They are very efficient offensively, despite, obviously, despite being a lower seed. They, like I said, I'm going to look at their stats in these last few games, and then I'm going to reassess. But right now, that's my upset.
Okay, so that's your upset. Now, who are your favorites? Or who's your favorite to win the tournament, and who's your favorite dark horse based on these betting odds?
Okay, so because I think Iona has a chance to lose early, I really look at this other side of the bracket. I don't see too many teams getting hot at the right times, which is why Quinnipiac is again a little recency bias. Quinnipiac is my favorite to win this tournament. They have what it takes down low. They run a really interesting pick and roll offense. The only teams that are going to beat them are ones that are dynamic enough on defense to guard the perimeter and not get fooled by pick and rolls. So that is my favorite dark horse. Now that's interesting. Based on these betting odds, honestly, like we said, Iona and Quinnipiac are really appropriate 1 and 2. I'd like to know more about Ryder before I put them that high up. I mean, sure. I think, let's say Noah Thomason gets hot. Minus 4,000 for the top scorer in the MAAC. Give me that. That's my favorite dark horse bet. But my upset here is Canisius, and my favorite here is Quinnipiac.
Yeah, that was a good talk. We gave him a lot of time.
Yes, we did.
But I think now it's time to talk about the women and give them their fair share. Before we do that, I need to show you a video that I'm sick and tired of. And I know we're going to see it. Well, we're probably not going to see it anymore because they're going to actually be in Atlantic City now. But I am sick and tired of this. Let me find it.
I'm worried. I'm worried what you got cooking up.
I'm so glad, Dan, I never have to see
Bracket busters of March are born in Atlantic City with a spot in the NCAA tournament on the line. 22 teams will converge in the hub of entertainment for the 2023 Hercules Tires MAAC Basketball Championships. Known for fine dining and world-class hotels, don't miss the action alongside the MAAC Esports Championship, March 7th through the 11th. Will you be in Destination AC? For tickets, visit boardwalkhall.com.
Will you be in Destination AC, Dan?
No.
Neither will I.
Shit. No matter what John Dunn says, I will not be in Atlantic City.
Destination AC.
Look, if I'm doing one of the beats next year, I might not have to go to Atlantic City. That's crazy. I don't know where else they'd go. I don't know.
Yeah.
However, I'm gonna try to pull up something myself.
Yeah, I was running tapes this winter for the Red Fox Network and ESPN3. So basically, I'd run the commercials from the computer, and whenever we had a local break, we always had that MAAC tournament commercial, and it always sickened me every single time. I don't know why it's the most annoying commercial I think ever. Is it the voice? Is it?
I think it's the fact
of action.
For me, it's that they are advertising the fine dining of Atlantic City and not the tournament itself, which just makes it feel like like an advertisement and not like hype for the MAAC tournament. So
well, and I think I just also very much hate the phrase, "Will you be in Destination AC?" Like this, who calls it that? Who calls it that?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Wait, okay. I want to pull up something since we're going to talk about the woman. Let me see if it works. 1 sec.
I see buyout contracts here. Is that supposed to be there?
No, you can get rid of that.
Okay.
If for anyone wondering, I run another podcast called The Relay Throw. Not The Relay Throw. This is the current. Tri Takes area. Graphics by Gavin Hart.
Plug.
Yeah, plug. All right. Can you see this? It's an audio file. Okay. Yeah. Let me know if you can hear it. Can you hear that?
No.
Damn it. All right. Sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties, but we have women's basketball to talk about now, and I got a little clip from Brian George's last game at home, regular season for Marist, and I got someone cool on the call. Let's give it a listen.
Gets the ball back. Another three-point shot missed. And it's back to Katie Cunningham. Looks like Marist is going to start to reset this offense. Katie Cunningham takes the ball up the Marist court on the left side, swings it back out to Crick, who gets a three-point shot in. What a great shot from Kendall Crick, who we haven't seen much of her three-point prowess here today. A game-high 6 threes made in one of the games earlier in the year.
That's exactly what I wanted to see. You're down so many points.
That's Derek.
Derek Gallo.
Get a three-point shot, but it's a great job by Crick and a great job.
But that's
shout out to Derek, by the way, host of Derek's Discussions. Find that on YouTube.
I think we've both been a guest on Derek.
We've both been guests on Derek Discussions.
Nice.
But is that your signature call, you think?
That was a pretty good one. I'd have to, considering the second half was pretty woeful, in that Niagara game specifically, that was one of the highlights early on in the second half. And it's in. But nothing crazy. No crazy Mike Breen stuff or
I was just gonna ask. Marv Albert has yes. Mike Breen has bang. What's your 3-point call?
I don't know yet.
Is it and it's in?
I guess and it's in, but I think I want something a little more creative. I think it will just come to me when making the endeavor. When I get some more electric 3-point calls. Unfortunately, basketball's over, but it'd be cool to go to Atlantic City and do that.
All right. Will you be in Destination AC?
If we had the live equipment, I would, but the WMAR doesn't have it yet, so we'll see. We'll see, but
reviving WMAR. Love it. Love it.
Back on the map.
It's back on the map. That's right. That's right. Love to hear that.
But hey, you want to talk some MAAC women's?
Let's talk some MAAC women's.
Yeah.
So of course, just like the men, Iona just dominates everything.
So good. I didn't expect it this year. Again, I know a little bit less about the women's tournament, but I do know that I think Iona is what they are. They have a ridiculous record. Actually had a pretty close game against St. Peter's. I don't know if the game even mattered because Iona is 24-6 and St. Peter's is 0-30.
Yep.
So, but good stuff from them.
Here's the funny thing with the men's and women's bracket. In both they actually share a lot of seeds between the men's and women's tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Iona's the 1 seed, Quinnipiac's the 3 seed, Siena's the 4 seed, and we have the same opening round matchup between Mount St. Mary's, Canisius, both the 8 and 9 seeds.
Right.
So it's pretty funny if you're into that type of stuff. But honestly, no, same deal. Iona's been dominant the whole year in the women's.
Is Mount St. Mary's playing Canisius 8 versus 9?
Yeah. Yep. Same matchup, same day. I believe. Let me confirm.
Wow.
Same day. Yeah, same day. So the women play Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. while the men play at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. Same game. So
interesting.
Whoever wins is going for the sweep.
That would be funny. I like a complete sweep of this is a new rivalry in the MAAC.
Yeah, and whoever both sides, whoever wins plays Iona.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Similar stuff from the women's team. I got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Another 11. Oh wait, this is the men's. Okay, that was the men's team I was looking at. I was really confused why they were both on an 11-game win streak.
Yeah, the Iona women are definitely not on the 11-game streak.
And there's a reason why. It's because
yes, very good reason.
Brian Georges put a stop to that. 70-60. I think what we were talking to Spirio. I think the spread was -20 for Iona.
Right. Yep.
They completely flipped that.
Upsets of the year.
Yeah, and definitely game of the year for Marist. Shazer with 22, 5 steals, 11 rebounds. Kiara Fisher with 17 had went 3 for 7 on threes and made all of her free throws. Morgan Tompkins getting in on the action, new freshman, getting 13 and making both of her free throws. So
I think, and here's the thing, I guess we'll just jump right in with Marist.
Might
as well. I think Jonathan Kinane pointed this out, women's basketball beat writer, editor-in-chief of Centerfield. I think he's predicting to see much more of Morgan Tompkins and Katie Cunningham this MAAC tournament, and I really hope they do because man, the more playing time they've got, the better they've looked, better cohesion, better spark. It's really helped them having Morgan Tompkins play and Katie Cunningham. Morgan Tompkins, we just had a feature put up about her. She was trained by former NBA player Tyler Lydon, Syracuse star Tyler Lydon.
Made it to the NBA.
Made it to the NBA, right? So, actually, I'm trying to make sure that is up before I.
It is. It is up.
It's definitely up. That. Okay. I'm just making sure.
Yeah. Don't leak any center field.
Yeah, I don't want to. I can't leak center field inside knowledge, man. We know too much.
Something interesting. These are Cunningham and Tompkins are very, very young and recruited by Doty. Very interesting because Doty is known for her guard recruiting. And look at how recently they have meshed onto this team and what role they are going to take in the future. I was talking this with Derek at the game, and they're both 5'11", a bigger guard presence, especially on the women's side. they are scorers first, and I really liked the playmaking I saw from Katie Cunningham against that Niagara. Even though they lost in that second half, they got some more playing time. You know, I think she had a season high 13 rebounds this year against Iona, which is great. And then you go to Morgan Tompkins, who has had some really good games down the stretch and just some surprising ones.
Yeah.
Really, I think her high this was against Iona a few days ago, 13. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing. They're getting her scoring opportunities. She looks confident driving to the paint. This is the future. This is what Georges is leaving this program with, and leaving it in great hands. So,
yeah, I think he's been campaigning for Dowdy this whole time, and I think he's content with where this program is headed. And remarkable 21 years. And we'll see if he ends it off on a high note with a MAAC tournament victory. But just looking at the rest of the MAAC, we got pretty much the same favorites throughout the conference. And just looking real quick, just the women's MAAC pedigree. You've just been seeing, I mean, since we've been away for so long, we haven't done a podcast in 2 months, as we reiterate time and time again. On UConn, I forgot her name. I cut this. Lou Lopez. Is it Senecal?
Yeah,
I believe. She's been going off for UConn. Former Fairfield player who transferred. You just see so many of these former MAAC players now on the women's side rising up and going on to better places, and that just further proves to me that the MAAC is on the map. But
MAAC is on the map.
MAAC is on the map. But going back to the actual tournament real quick, Iona's, they're not as heavy of a favorite as they are on the men's side, I think. If there were betting odds, I'd probably imagine they're probably a plus 200 rather than a minus 200 on the women's side. But the top half of the MAAC, I'd say the top 5 seeds of the MAAC, everyone who's got a first round bye, I think have a good shot at winning the tournament.
Yep.
I think there's a much closer gap between 1 and 5 in the women's side than the men's side. Do you agree with that?
I agree. I think this is a little more flip-flopped. Part of the reason is there are so many prominent scorers in this top half of the MAAC, starting off with Iona. So something interesting is that having one high scorer, it's different than the men's side. I think having one high scorer on the women's side, it hasn't demonstrated to record ability, because you look at Marist, Shazer is number 2 in scoring the MAAC, and the team is in 7th. Kiara Fisher also close up there. And looking at Iona's stats, it's their 3-point shooting that is really taking them to a clear 1 seed.
3-point shooting and defense. They're an elite defensive squad.
Yes. And those are really important. I'm looking right now at the team 3-point field goal percentage. With 548 attempts, they are shooting 407, shooting 40% as a team from 3, which is really good. You know, the next best team, 315. So there is a big gap in how Iona can shoot versus all these other teams in the MAAC. And the rest kind of sit very similarly in the low 3s, high 2s. So Iona is a step above all these teams. And that's led by Kate Mager, who, again, I think leads the MAAC in both 3s made and percentage. So they take a lot of 3s, but they also make them. Very different than flip side, where many of these top teams on the men's side, they take a lot of 3s, but they're not as efficient as this women's team.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I just mentioned the fact that not only did they have they have the top 3-point shooting team, they have one of the best defensive teams in the MAAC. They have the second best scoring defense, 54.4 points per game, only 0.3 points per game higher than Siena, who is Quinnipiac, who's at number 1, 54.1. So they're really, I would say, I would put them at 1 in that case. I mean, tied at 1. They're it's almost the same.
Just because of how good they are in this team stats wise.
Yeah. So when you mix that with being able to knock down the 3, which in MAAC women's basketball, the 3-pointer is so hard to come by. If you can knock down your 3s consistently, you're winning every single game. I'm sorry.
And that is why I think I'm going to roll with Iona going forward. I'm really interested to see what perimeter defense is going to stop them from getting these looks. And not only that, but look at their best forward, Ketsia Athias, I want to say, from Brooklyn. She is a transfer from NYIT, and she is incredible. She had a high game of 22 points, leading the MAAC in blocks per game at 1.6. That's someone you want to have, especially with your guard shooting all these 3s. She doesn't take any, and they still lead the league in attempted 3s and made 3s. So that's a great compliment.
In the Iona women, I remember this from doing working Red Fox Network for a Marist Iona game early this season. Iona has a plethora of international talent, and I'm just looking at their roster right now. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players from Europe on this team. Yes. It's a team with a lot of international flair, and they play with that Euro style, which is why I think they are a little better with the 3-pointer too.
That's a big advantage.
Yeah, but they play with that Euro style, and it really, I think, translates well to college basketball. And I think that's a big reason why they've been dominating the MAAC. And hey, Billy Chambers has done an incredible job with the squad. It's consistent. It's just I could see them getting beat, I think, in the MAAC tournament more so than the men getting beat. But it's still a formidable number 1 seed, a truly deserving number 1 seed. And whoever plays them, they've got to be on their best game basketball IQ wise. Because I think they beat you with basketball IQ.
Yeah, for sure. Just again, the only team recently to beat this squad is Marist. But other than that, they have 1 win after, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. They had a 16-game winning streak. That's a feat within itself. One of my favorite teams, though, is Niagara. The second team, but they play a very different style of basketball from Iona. My favorite stat, just a really fun one to look at. Look at MAAC leaders and steals, and the top 3 are all in Niagara. With I want to say it's Aaliyah Parker and Angel Parker, the Parker sisters. They are both averaging over 3 steals per game. Talk about perimeters. Who's going to stop them on the perimeter? Who's going to try to make some steals on early passes? It's going to be those sisters. And my favorite thing is that the sisters, they play very different styles. Aaliyah Parker is a strong small forward, And Angel Parker is really looking for outside looks, kind of facilitates the offense a little bit with their other guard. I'm blanking on her name. I'll get back to that in a second. And then you got Nicole O'Neal with averaging 2.7 steals. So this is a scrappy team. They have a top scorer in the MAAC in Aaliyah Parker, probably one of the favorites for Player of the Year. This is a really strong 2 seed. Obviously, we don't have the betting odds up. I really like where Niagara stands, and it's going to be hard for any team to get by them.
I'm glad you mentioned Niagara because Niagara really does play a different style from the rest of the MAAC. They're very fast. They love to put pressure on people. That's why they get so many steals per game. But they also have they can play that way because I think they have the best depth in the MAAC, which I mentioned as a key on the men's side. It's the same for the women. It's the same for basketball in general. They play. I was listening to Jeff Brawl say, I believe, 13 deep. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
You rarely see that in basketball right now. Hell, Tom Thibodeau of the Knicks is only playing a 9-man rotation.
Yeah. They get a lot of people in.
And they're winning. So Niagara, because they play so fast, your players are getting tired fast, so they got to play more players naturally, but you need to trust your players with that type of depth. And Jada Pierce really, really instills that trust real well. And
George's disciple.
She spent 1 year with Marist, the year they went to the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament.
Very cool.
And then she moved on to bigger and better things. She's done an incredible job at Niagara. And so Niagara is very different from that Iona style, where Iona's more winning. They're winning with defense, but it's more of a conventional defense. Niagara is very fast-paced. They get most of their points in the paint. They're not really a great shooting team.
Yeah.
So Niagara is the complete opposite. But I think because of that, they're still a heavy favorite.
Yeah, and in matchups earlier in the year, Iona did beat them twice. But the scoring margins weren't that wide. It was, I think, by 10 both times. So that's going to be that'd be a really cool finals matchup if these two teams play. Most likely that's not going to happen just because of how the tournament shakes up. The winner of Marist, Ryder, they will move on to play Niagara. So watching Marist play against Niagara, they did struggle with how fast-paced Niagara looked. But you know what? It's the MAAC tournament. Marist is my favorite underdog. I think with how they played against Iona, how they matched up against them, how in desperation mode in a neck-and-neck game, they pulled away completely from Iona, didn't even let them get a chance to bring a run back, beat them by 10. They got, Shazer is really comfortable as the main scorer for this team. Like you said, Katie Cunningham, Morgan Tompkins, get them in the game more. The loss of Maeve Donnelly is huge on the defensive front, which is probably the key reason why they lost to Niagara. They didn't have much defense in the paint, and Donnelly led the league in blocks. So if they can get any sort of pressure down low, which I think they're going to look out for, just protect the paint, they have a chance to upset Niagara and play a favorable matchup against Iona.
Marist is definitely the emotional pick. You hope they give it their best for Brian Georges. I really think they're going to look their best this tournament because they know it's ride or die for Brian Georges, and they want to give him the best exit possible. And what better than a MAAC championship?
What a Cinderella run that would be, huh?
So yeah, and so I think they'll play their hardest, and there's no denying they've played hard all year. Just, consistency on offense, and defense for that matter, hasn't been there. When they've been very good, they've been like one of the best teams in the MAAC. They played like that. But at their worst, they were easily the worst team in the MAAC.
And they flip flop, I mentioned, they flip flop per game. Not on. They don't have like winning streaks or losing streaks. They flip flop per game.
Yeah,
which is why it's the emotional pick, but it might not be the bad pick.
Like the worst I've seen the women play this season was against Fairfield at home. This was like mid-January. It was before the second semester started. At the end of the first quarter, it was tied 5-5. One of the most brutal basketball games I think I've ever had to watch.
That's insane. I remember I remember the slack blowing up after that.
Yeah, and I mean, like they lost the game 43-34. But then they'll like double their point total against Iona. So like they're, score 70. So like you never know what you're going to get from this team. And
you never know.
It's either going to be the best team in the MAAC or the worst team in the MAAC. So I do think they'll put it together though, this tournament run. And I really hope they do an emotional side for Brian Georges, who deserves this type of exit.
We are journalists, but you can't help but rooting for.
Can't help it.
Yeah, so not our fault. Sorry. I think that's all we really need to dive in with the women's team and the MAAC tournament. Again, both these tournaments really excited for. Let's bring it home. Let's bring it home with some other spring sports starting up right now. Let's talk lacrosse. Real quick. I don't think the men's lacrosse team has their first win yet.
They won last night.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes,
Good for them. That's why I have you here.
They beat Bucknell last night for their first win of the year. Tough start for the men's side. But they've got the MAAC preseason player of the year and Jojo Purita. So they have the talent. Keegan Wilkinson's been a good coach for them. But they just had a nice guy.
Followed me on Twitter this morning.
How about that? Hey, he knew we were gonna like give him some love, even though they're what are they 1-4? 1-4. Yes, 1-4.
But getting their first win is huge.
But getting their first win's huge, as they'll start MAAC play soon. But they've had a tough non-conference schedule. Like their first game of the year was against a top 10 team, Rutgers.
Yeah, they're playing they played two top 25 ranked teams.
Right. Yeah.
In the first 4 games. That's a tough start. I mean, it's what hearing from most MAAC coaches, that's what you want. You want to start your team off against rough opponents. You're in it for the long haul, but that's how you get your team fired up and warmed up. They played very well their first game, that first half. But couldn't hold it together.
That's a Sean Byron special right there. You just said, right?
Saying that is a Sean.
You love to schedule the harder opponents.
That is a Sean Byron. Shout out women's volleyball. That he's all about that.
Oh yeah.
But on the women's side of things, trying to pull up their schedule right now. Give me a second.
Yeah.
I know my favorite highlight from them is that behind the back Maddie Schrader.
Oh yeah.
That was electric.
How about Maddie Schrader? Going off not just on the field, but on the internet, viral on TikTok. How about that?
That was awesome. Okay, this is what I was wondering. What was our nickname for Gutenberger?
Oh,
was it something with a train?
Was I there for this?
No, you were there. We were interviewing Mackenzie. So we did a spring recap.
Yeah, last year.
We in the comments below, if you make it this far, please let us know what we called Carrie Gutenberger. as she is one of the main offensive scorers for this team, along with Kelly Trotta. This team is looking. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I've had this take for a little bit now. I was thinking about this over the past few weeks. I brought it up to a few people. I think Carrie Gutenberger is the best athlete at Marist, just straight up athlete.
Really?
I think Carrie Gutenberger. I mean, I remember what you were saying. I remember what you were saying about Mackenzie, and she brought that up. It watching her more and more play. I mean, I'm editing women's lacrosse now, so I'm kind of like keeping an eye on the games.
Oh, there we go.
More. She is nonstop freight train. She's always.
This is why it was something to do with a train.
Yeah, she's always making she's always on the TV screen. She's just somewhere. You'll never see her out of frame. So
that's awesome.
I think that's the best compliment you can give an athlete, and I think that's easily why she's the best athlete at Marist. But anyways, I'm sorry. I had to talk about that.
I've been thinking about that. You're the lacrosse expert.
The past few weeks. And
I'm pulling up the old episode. I'm gonna listen. In the meantime, give us a little taste of what you know about women's lacrosse.
Yeah, so women's lacrosse 2-2. They split their last two. So they started against Army. They lost that game. They started against Bucknell. They lost that game. They got blown out by Army. Army was really their worst loss of the year. They lost 21-5. Brutal over at West Point. But their last two, they've been trending upwards. They've won their last two against Merrimack and Hofstra. They got 5 more games until their MAAC schedule starts back up. Say they go 4-2, including their last 2 wins. I think that's a successful start before they head into their MAAC play. But what was the nickname, Dan? What was the nickname?
Let me play this clip.
I'm a Goot fan now, so, and I'm sure Andrew is too.
Official
you bet.
Goot guy, Dan Aulbach.
We're on the Goot wagon.
We're on the Goot train right now.
Goot wagon.
Goot train, yeah.
The Goot train.
Oh, the Goot train. There we go.
One final question.
The Goot train.
The Goot train? I feel like we can do better than that.
The Goot train. Let's see. We got
honestly, the Gutenwagen was pretty sick.
The Gutenberg Express.
The Gutenberg Express. That I like.
I like the Gutenberg Express.
We could ride with the Gutenberg Express. Comment below what you think Carrie Gutenberger's nickname should be on this podcast, and hopefully make it to the mainstream MAAC women's lacrosse world.
But hold on, I'm just pulling up. But so far, Iona's had the best start of their non-conference schedule. They've been 4-1. So I mean, we've been talking about Iona all show, but
really.
I think we're gonna be talking about them even more through the spring season. So not gonna be the last you heard of them. But I think it's a positive start for the women's lacrosse team. I think more so than the men's lax team, not just record wise, but I think vibe wise. They're in a better spot than the men in terms of, I think, overall depth.
That's what I'm looking at right now. It looks like surprisingly a lot of seniors. I actually wasn't aware Gutenberger was a senior.
Lots of seniors. Gutenberger, Olivia Arntzen, Kelly Trotta. I think the women have more depth than the men, but the men, I think Jojo Perica. I mean, Jojo is so good. He's as our men's lacrosse beat writer Danny Dessler would say,
dog.
He's a dog, absolute dog. So, I think in the long run, both lacrosse teams will be good this year. Sure, hope so. But
you know what's interesting? the difference, which this is new, and I think you can make a center field story out of this. The new teams in the lacrosse MAAC, they have 3 new teams. VMI is a new team to the MAAC, and I don't think we've covered that. Another Sacred Heart is a MAAC team, and LIU, the LIU Sharks, are a MAAC team along with Mount St. Mary's. So there are 4 new teams in the MAAC. I really wonder. MAAC is on the map. It's the hot spot for men's lacrosse right now. I'm really wondering what coaches think in the MAAC about getting 4 new teams, because you look at the schedule between this year and last year, as they are playing like football schedules now, where they go really on the weekends with some Wednesdays, and they used to be weekend Tuesday, where they had a few, shorter spurts between games. So not only are you getting more opponents that you haven't played, haven't scouted, you're getting farther apart games. So I really wonder, is that an advantage or a disadvantage, and how that affects coaching? I think that's a good angle that should be talked about with a grain of salt when talking about this team.
I think it's time to pitch that on Wednesday.
Let's do it.
I think it's a little preview to Wednesday's general meeting.
Yeah, I might have had a sports reporting class where I might have heard some off-record stuff about the MAAC and the new teams, and I might have that's where I got the idea. I'm not gonna lie, because before that I had no idea there were 4 new teams, but we could totally cover that. Yeah,
and I mean, I was talking about the women's depth earlier. I pulled up their stats real quick this season. I literally named off 3 of their top 4 scorers this year in their seniors. So they got veteran leadership. Kelly Trotta is leading the way in goals with 15 this year, 20 points in total. She's really having the breakout year. She had a great game against MAAC, but I think long run, I'd say don't look at the records for the non-conference stretch, even though I do think the women will be successful in their non-conference stretch over the men. But I think both teams
sorry, did you say MAAC?
Merrimack.
Thank you.
Merrimack. I'm sorry.
Sorry. No.
I'm sorry. Oh, God. I'm the stickler of pronunciation, and I say Merrimack.
It's okay. It's all right.
Okay, but I can't say Lou Lopez, Senecal, or...
Yeah, we were trying to get past me trying to pronounce the entire Iona men's basketball roster.
right. Men's and women's.
Yeah,
but,
they do some great international recruiting.
But back to Lax though. I think both teams, you don't look at the non-conference records. I think they'll be fine as this MAAC season progresses.
Good takes. I like that. I wish I could say more, other than get to these games, because it's cold, but these teams would love the support.
Hey, April, I think a nice little outing in April. It's nice. Springtime weather. Watch some Lax at Tenny.
Maybe I could commentate some lacrosse.
Hey, with Rob DeFelice. How about that? Shout out Rob DeFelice.
Shout out Rob.
First, I didn't confirm this with anyone, but in my headcanon, this is correct. I think Rob DeFelice is the first official Marist student sports commentator since Mike Ferraro.
Since Mike. Wow. That is a cast.
Yep. So that would have been, I believe, 2001 was the last time. I mean, he was a commentator for the team afterwards, but when he was the last student
right
to do that. So congrats to Rob. I know we mentioned you, of course, earlier, Dan. But
yeah, but Rob isn't a huge.
Rob's made the air. So
I got some work to do, to say the least. I got some work to do. But I think this is about wrapping up this comeback episode of the Relay Throw. And let me tell you, I'm very happy to be back.
We're happy too. We'll be back. We'll be back after the MAAC tournament.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about. We'll recap it. We'll get our guys, Jonathan, Canadian, Christian, the block in here.
I think the relay throw is bound to post more on the socials.
Oh.
I think we should post some reels, some highlights. You know, maybe some of our own takes.
We'll get Jared on that.
Gotta grow the brand. We'll get Jared does it
Jared.
all.
Jared, our guy, Jared.
He's
Rodriguez.
underrated, most underrated. I had a Wilt Chamberlain stat line in his MLB Network interview.
Oh man,
that was so funny.
Talk about that.
Shout out Jared.
Let's get Jared on the pod. Let's get Jared on here.
What do you think Jared on the pod?
Let's do
Jared,
that. Let's do that.
Let's do it.
After
our
basketball.
Our next alternative guest, our next special guest, you're going to see who makes all of our graphics, other than your brother. So.
Other than my brother, true.
And Gabby.
And Gabby.
We'll get Gabby on too.
Jared and Gabby. Let's talk about it. Perfect.
Get the masterminds on, so you can have a conversation. Talk some Mets. That's Jared would love.
Let's preview the magazine.
I think we just made some ideas.
Hey, we're doing it live, pal. We're doing it live.
Signing off with some brand new ideas. We are hot with those ideas. Ideas are on the map. I am Dan Aulbach with my co-host Andrew Hard. This is another episode of The Relay Throw. We will see you next time.
See ya.